updates. Good morning, Tobago. Wake up with Candace and Denise.
Let's go, go. It's a brand new morning. Rise up to a brand new dawning. As the passion start to rise, the energy fill the skies. I say thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never wrong.
Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. Guys, good morning, and whenever you see me here, we're having those conversations that you want to have to get your day started and asking those questions that you want to know. Now, this morning, we're going to be chatting a bit with Pastor Clive Dottin, and he is the pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And we're going to be talking about getting a grip on crime in Trinidad and Tobago. Now, we know recently we heard of the second recorded murder on the island of Tobago for the year 2023. And so we're going to be talking about this and a number of other things. So to get this morning's conversation started, we have online with us this morning, Pastor Clive Dottin. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, my dear. Well, I'm fighting. If I just give you a little idea, my day yesterday, I went to a tongue meeting in Philly City, traveling from work. Then I went Marabella, around 9. Then I went home, that is grieving. One of our top singing evangelists died. All right, he got a stroke. He was not yet 60. So I went to comfort the grieving. Then I had to go Maracas Valley. And from Maracas Valley, end up in Diego Martin around 12. And that was my day. And I am happy to be of service to the country. And I want to tell people that with all the crime and violence, never give up hope. Because that is where the evil forces want to bring us, that we must give up hope. And, I looked at positive just now on the program just before. I looked at positive. And I have said this over and over. We have not used our talented artists to commit a drug-free message and a crime-free message. And I hope one day, on the media or 1 week, that's all we do. Commit positive, optimistic, high expectation messages via music and via the arts and via drama. That, to my mind, is what could be the trigger for any other initiatives, strategic initiatives that we would take in the battle against crime.
So, and as you have gone into the whole idea of the impact of arts, drama, and music on the mentality of the young persons in Trinidad and Tobago.
Sure.
In Tobago
Sure.
here, the hot topic this morning has been that Buku goat race and the chosen artist that was used to entertain the persons at that Buku goat racing and crab race festival on Tuesday night. And we had the artist Temper, who is one of those, I guess, Trini dancehall artists whose musical content is not necessarily appropriate for any child to listen to, and they had her there, and she was the entertainment. And there was still a number of kids that was at the show during that time. And so there's a big debate happening on the island of the appropriateness, and when hosting events that are deemed to be family friendly, who are the persons that are being chosen to entertain these young persons? And do the people who are selecting the entertainers understand the impact that this type of music has on the mentality of the young persons? And when I'm talking about young persons, I mean children as small as 5 years old, or even younger, were in the crowd and singing along, and all the expletives were being sung during that time. And it feeds into what you're saying, but what are you thinking should be done to eradicate this type of things from happening? Because we see even at the big events, they're still hiring persons that are singing the type of music that goes against what we're preaching when we talk about youth development and youth walking on the straight and narrow.
Well, hold there. You said youth development. That is not development, that is youth destruction. And what is happening in Trinidad and Tobago right now, with all due respects to people like Archbishop Gordon and a few others who say we mustn't keep focusing on negative stuff. But when negative stuff is being brought to the minds of the young people, then we have to cry out. I was in the Caribbean island, St. Vincent, and there was a girl who got chopped. And I remember this well. I met her. I made a big issue out of it in the community festival, Health and Happiness Festival we were having. And she said, Pastor, when things like this happen, we cry out. I say, keep crying out. Because in Trinidad and Tobago, the mafia is attempting to silence us and take over the country. And I am saying that right now. The group of folks who are literally in charge of bringing in cocaine, we don't plant cocaine here. All right? And we don't manufacture guns here. So people are importing it and they're allowed. And by the way, let me tell you something, sister. I hope it doesn't happen to this extent in Tobago. But we have protected assassins, you know. We have career assassins. You have fellas saying they'll be assassins until they die. All right? And in the meanwhile, they will live it up, eat, drink, but tomorrow you may die. But let me come back to the issue of culture. It is sickening. It has to be psychotic people who foist, who hurl, who market people with no kind of values or no morality whatsoever, use expletives in a time when youth are in crisis, youth in gangs, youth being trained in underground academies in Trinidad to shoot and to kill and to maim, youth enlisted in some form or some career in drug dealing, either as a bodyguard or as a watchman to tell when the police coming, or as a courier carrying the drugs. And you will tell me, you two growing up in parentless homes, you two growing up in godless homes, you two growing up in loveless homes, and you will tell me at this time of a crisis, when we should be fighting for a turning point, when all hands should be on board in the fight against crime, when we should form neighborhood watch groups, when we should flood the schools with positivity, all the fellows like positive, and all those who have a message of faith in God, flooding the schools, retirees, going out there and helping principals who are battling with criminality in the secondary schools. And you'll tell me that kind of supercalifragilistic rubbish we are pushing, all right? And by the way, clapping, I saw something with the Dalai Lama when he told the boy, suck my tongue. I mean, as raw and as crass as that songs. People were laughing like it was a big joke in the temple. And I condemned that. I felt he should be in jail. I have told the media in Trinidad that.
I think it was a manifestation of the things that people have been saying for a number of years that happens with persons like the Dalai Lama and a number of priests, within the religious sector. So it was just a public manifestation of what has been said for a long time. So I don't think it was really deemed a joke. I just think it was persons finally saying, okay, this is it being publicly manifested. We spoke about this. We saw this happening. We heard of it. And now this is you guys seeing it for yourself, basically.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, this was just horrible. Because when I saw what he told the guy and chuckles emanated from the immediate audience, I mean, that has to be rotten. That shows you the standard to which, and somebody said, if he could dare to see those things in public, what is happening and has been happening behind the scenes? And let me say a word about religious leaders. No religious leader could afford to be involved in drugs and guns and criminality. And sad to say, all right, you have all kinds of allegations being made about people who claim to be religious who heavily involved in criminality. And the best person to deal with that is people like myself, in terms of, because I'm a religious leader too, and I don't believe in cover up, and we have got to come straight. I mean, let me tell you something. I think the majority of the population is the home invasions in Trinidad that has brought us alive, to tell us how close we are. And in Trinidad, you don't have to be involved in anything to be shot and killed, People that, daily, Tony Lee says on 95.5, people just have to want to kill somebody sometimes, and that happens. Yes, they have the gang rivalry. Yes, they have, and let me give you the drug trade right away. The Inter-American Development Bank has said, all right, a couple of years ago, that the underground trade, casino gambling in all its forms, and the drug trade is worth 1/3 of our gross domestic product, the GDP. If the GDP is about $150 billion, your national budget is $50 billion. It means 1/3 of $150 billion is approximately $50 billion, which means that we have grown dependent on the illegal gains from the drug trade. We have casinos, the greatest money laundering machines you have in the world happen to be Casinos, if you please, remember Dina Sital was killed after coming from a casino, and apparently there was a gambling addiction there. So I am saying we have got to be strong. Now is the time to pull together. Now is the time to look out for each other. Now is the time to call the government to account. All right, we cannot have this level of criminality and it taking long to make a comment and bring hope to the citizens. We have about rogue elements in the protective services, police, prison, army, what have you there. That has got to be dealt with. When we put leaders there, we must call them to account. Yes, the citizens have a role to play. Yes, we mustn't be soft targets. I heard former uh, Senior Superintendent Johnny Abraham, talk about that last night. I was in a town meeting in central Trinidad. Yes, but there's a responsibility for leadership. Let me tell you something. Government has a role to play in terms of making the citizens feel safe and have hope and trust. All right, and trust is decreasing faster than Usain Bolt could run 100 meters. And the church has a role to play. Let me tell you something. We in the church must get out of the four walls and get into the community in a more dynamic and positive and aggressive manner. I say aggressive, all right, because we have young people to save. You know, we have to look at our schools.
To
We
talk
have to look at
about
our communities.
the role
Yes.
of church in the community and community engagement to help eradicate crime. We see, as my colleague would have said earlier this morning, before we thought that when crime happens on the island of Tobago, that it was only a result of outsiders coming in and committing crimes, but more and more we get to see that even our own Tobagonians on the island here are being involved in criminal activities. How have you been working with the SDA Church or any other organizations here on the island of Tobago to help working with young persons and to help eradicate crime?
Well, I want to tell you, the Tobago Seventh-day Adventist Church, and I take the lead from, Tobago now is, should I say, independent in the sense that they have a mission. Formerly, they were under the South Caribbean Conference. Now they have a mission because you have leaders and you have institutions, you know, that are very significant. The credit union, you have the secondary school, you have the primary schools all over Tobago. You have the community services that is one of the most dynamic in the entire Caribbean. And you have the youth groups, the Pathfinders, for example, that we see as a proactive, preventative institution to enlist young people. And then we have we had a group called Friends Forever. We're in the process of reviving that, which deals particularly with the issue of drug addiction. And pretty soon, we are going to develop a Life Hope Center in Tobago. In addition to all the institutions, we have the school feeding program, all right, the men's ministry in a particular way to save men. All of that is on the table. And I'm saying that even though we have church initiatives for one religion, we could unite with other religious groups because what this calls is for cross border relationships in the society. And I think Tobago has no shortage of leadership. I know some of us in Trinidad would like to think so, but that is not so at all. You have a lot of talented leaders that I have found, including youth leaders, in the heart, in the belly of Tobago. And I'm saying that all of us have to not only be concerned about what we are doing individually, but combine with other religious groups and other NGOs, to ensure that what is happening in Trinidad, people in Trinidad say that, but where we are right now, it was 10 years, it will never happen. But we went to sleep. But the criminals were up. All right, the criminals don't sleep. They are strategizing. They are planning. They have recruited the best young people from our secondary schools. The gang violence in Trinidad and to a small extent in Tobago in some of our secondary schools didn't happen overnight. I'll give you an example. And I'm going to Trinidad right now. There was a principal. I do about 14 graduations, all right, in Trinidad and Tobago every year, most of them secondary schools. And I went to a school a few months ago for a graduation, and the principal, we call him Principal A, told me that he was not aware he had gangs in the school, a gang in the school, and they recruited. I said, "But how you found out?" He said, "Principal A called me, Principal B, and told me his junior drug dealer in his school. So there's a junior drug dealer and there's a community senior leader who is in charge of recruiting young people in secondary schools. He says Principal B called him and told him that his junior drug dealer is, all right, watch this, is recruiting young people from secondary schools, including his school. And he said then he proved it was true. And when I went to that school, it's a large school. They barely had 40 people graduating. And there was a kind of a pallor of, discouragement over that ceremony. So, and by the way, they had gang violence before, but he didn't know that guys were recruited to push drugs and criminality in his school. He didn't know. He wasn't alert. And I call upon principals to be very alert. Don't say it can't happen in your school, because I have been to schools. I mean, amazingly, I have been to schools where individuals, Lord have mercy, all right, have been recruited and they challenge the hierarchy of the school. In some of our secondary schools, the principal has to be behind bars. Their office is like a jail cell. That is how serious it is. So that we have to be up and alert. And parents, let me tell you something. It's not your neighbor to mind your child or the grandparents. Let the grandparents enjoy their retirement. I want to tell parents this morning, God gave you those children. They are a gift from God to you. And you have to manage. You have to know where your child is. And by the way, make sure your child is in school. Because there are children in Trinidad leaving school in uniform, leaving home in uniform, and not attending school. I went to a particular school, and this will shock the population. And I saw a Form 5 boy by the gate in the East-West corridor. And the social worker brought me in there to show me what was happening. And the guy turned up. And she told me that is a guy turning up. He's in charge of drugs in the school. And there are people who owe him and he's coming to collect this morning. I said, well, how you can come to collect? I mean, you have security here. That guy should have no part until that issue of his drug dealing is dealt with. And he came in uniform and he didn't come inside the school. So they have to go by the gate and pay him. I said, that should not be allowed. And the discipline of that school had broken down. That was one of the best secondary schools we had in the East-West corridor. And the discipline had broken down completely. And by the way, don't take for granted it's not happening in your school or in your church or in your youth group or in your sporting organization. The time has come for us to be alert. The time has come for us to take drastic action on these things. And the government has to do better. They have to do better. Don't go to sleep now on the population. The population needs you now more than ever. Parents don't go to sleep. I have parents coming to me and telling me what is going on and what oh Lord God have mercy. They are living in jail and the prison commissioner is the boy and the girl in charge of the parents, have them locked up in their own homes and they can't say a word, otherwise they are beaten by their own children. And sometimes the police take very long to respond to these things. They say it's a family issue or they handle that.
Right. Pastor Dottin, interesting as the conversation evolves. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and continue with this. Guys,
Sure.
see you right after the break.
Rise up to a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise. The energy fill the skies. I say thanks for favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong and the vibes is never wrong.
Tobago, it's time to go.
Geld in die eigene
Sweet like to.
Tobago, here's the real deal. Nothing sweeter than when your internet fast all day, every day. I telling you, it's real nice when your home internet and TV package fit your budget. Well, if that's what you want, you're safe with Digicel Plus. Sign up or switch to Digicel Plus now and pay $0 for 1 month. Plus, plans start as low as $199 and you get installed for free. Visit digiceltt.com or a Digicel store now.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash in transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
It's a different type of thing down there. And we party till we drop down there. With a lot of pretty girls down there. Down in Tobago.
Glass Supplies has been a leading name for over 37 years in the glass and aluminum market in Tobago. We provide an extensive range of high-quality, innovative aluminum and glass products for commercial and residential use. Competitive prices with superior and professional services by committed employees who are guided by rigid quality standards. Tobago Glass Supplies specializes in the manufacture and installation of glass and aluminum products that are essential to today's homeowners and the business environment. We are engaged in marketing, sales, and installation of a variety of products. These ranges from windows and doors to necessities such as mirrors for homes and vehicles, designed and manufactured in-house or imported.
Never made a fortune.
One Accord SDA Church presents Money Management Workshop. Free. April 16th at 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Canaan Bonaccord Community Center. Come learn how to flex and stretch your dollar. How to get more from your same salary or less. Learn stress-free bill payment. Refreshments will be served. Hampers for being on time. Some tools to last a lifetime. One Accord SDA Church Money Management Workshop. April 16th at 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Canaan Bonaccord Community Center.
Yeah. Hey.
Tobago updates.
Welcome back to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates. And guys, we've been talking to Pastor Dottin, who is one of the pastors of the SDA Church. And we've been talking about crime and violence in Trinidad and Tobago. And he has been doing a lot of work with young people throughout Trinidad and Tobago, specifically in Trinidad. And he's been chatting a lot about what has been happening in the schools and in the communities. And Pastor Dottin, are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for staying with us. And so before the break, you were talking about gang violence in the schools and how many principals that you have interacted with did not even know that gang violence was happening in their schools. And I also asked you about what you were doing in relation to Tobago, what's happening in Tobago. And you said that Tobago should not take it for granted that this type of things can also happen over here, although the SDH, which is a bit independent on this side. What are some of the projects that you're currently working on, community-based projects?
Okay. We are working hard with Vishnu Prasad, who is the Tobago president, to enter what we call unentered areas that are, and sometimes areas that are impoverished. I should tell you, the church, Tobago will be the 5th country in the region that will establish Life Hope Centers. Life Hope Centers are crisis counseling centers. I could tell you, when I talk about there's no dearth of leadership in Tobago, I regard Vishnu leadership as a classical, proactive, very relevant leader who is very strategic. And another guy that I think you all should know very well is Wilfred Devines. He's my public affairs and religious liberty director. So he looks at the issue of community challenges. So I have worked very closely with him, not just in some of the schools, but in some of the communities. And there are 2 major projects about to take place in Tobago, and you'll hear a lot more about it. We're going to roll it out in about 2 months' time. I should tell you, I've just secured international funding for them. And as I said, the church already has institutions. We have to broaden the base and do more penetrative community work, and certainly revive what we had started before. And the drop group Friends Forever is about to be revived. So in the next couple of months, you'll hear a lot in terms of the church. Of course, we are the Caribbean Union Conference that in charge of the Eastern Caribbean, from the Virgin Islands down to Suriname and Guyana and all the islands in between. We empower leadership to make a difference in their communities. We don't try to come in to do the work, but if we're asked, we will come in. My area of specialization is the issue of formation of support groups for the employed, support groups for young people who have strayed, what we call, in the land of prodigalia, and would like to come back in mainstream society. The issue of family life enrichment programs, the issue of proper parenting to meet the 21st century challenges, all those that we're involved in. But the Life Hope Center will be a strategic initiative soon to be launched in Tobago, along with entering areas. All right, we have already, and I don't want to give out the information before the Tobago leadership, we have identified an area that is impoverished that we want to go in and adopt the entire community. All right, and we are now doing what is called need analysis in that particular area, and that will be a pilot project for the rest of in need communities in Tobago. This is the fifth country we are entering, by the way. I just came from India, and I went to assess the Life Hope centers in northern India along with a global team. My team had people from South Africa and Zambia and India and China and Brazil and North America and Europe. Okay, there were 12 of us, and we had to assess the Life Hope centers. So we want to start also in Tobago very shortly.
Dotson, how can persons get involved with the work that you're doing or even support the work that you're doing?
Okay, I would say call Wilfred Devines at the Tobago Mission. I don't have the number offhand, but he could always pass it to you and to the update here and get on to him. And if you want to be involved, if you want to, provide resources, financial or personal resources, that would not be a problem. We'd be happy. It's cross cultural. It's no religious barriers, no political party barriers. Hopefully, you know what I mean. And they all who want to get involved. We have started a program called Adopt a Troubled Youth. We are doing that across the Caribbean. We have started a group that I want to start in Tobago big time, and I'm discussing with Wilfred Devines, all right, who I said is the Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Director. It's a group that reaches out to endangered youth who involved in illicit activities and would like to come out and be part of mainstream activity. Now the bridge there, you'd always have a bridger between youth in prodigalia who involved in criminal stuff, all right, and coming over to mainstream society. So now mainstream society does not accept the troubled youth, the youth in gangs, all right. I recall I had to deal with a girl. Her parents had totally rejected her. She was with a bandit and totally rejected. They wanted to have nothing to do with her. And the bandit told her one day, you know too much, you could be shot and killed. And I walked into a church a Saturday evening, and lo and behold, she walked into the church. A young man from the church invited her, and I got on to her uncle, and her uncle accepted her, and she's back doing well in mainstream society. So now it takes a phone call, now it takes a visit to her home, and you start the problem solving strategy. And I'm saying to parents, don't give up. And so that's a lot of young people, they don't know what love is all about. All right. And they are influenced by some very negative elements. And by the way, I should tell you, my dear, you have parents who are involved in criminality. In fact, there's a guy who got shot in Arima, and he's the third generation that was involved in heavy stuff. And so now you have grandparents involved in criminality, parents and grandchildren involved in criminality. It will shock you. There's some 12-year-olds and 14-year-olds who could use a gun like any adult and who could cut cocaine like a 35-year-old man. All right, so that I am saying the gang leaders have done a better job of recruiting young people than the church, than the politicians, than business. All right, and parents, they have done a better job at it. And we must stop losing and start to win the battle. Start with one, adopt one, start with one.
If persons wants to get into connection or if they want to join the work that you guys are doing or even donate, and his number is 759-3386. That's 759-3386.
Oh,
If you
yeah,
guys want
that's
to get
Dean's
involved.
number. Yes, sure. I recall it now, yes.
So when it comes to some of the school projects that you guys are doing, because we see a new term is coming up, let the people know some of the school projects that you guys would be working on and how Tobago can get involved with that. Even the Tobago House of Assembly, how they can also reach out and get involved with a
Well,
lot of the work that's being done in the school.
yes, we have a drug prevention program, and we have motivational workshops. And if you want, you can call that same number, Brother Devines. And there's a program we have called Youth Alive. It's a sensational program to engage young people. Because we'll have to have training with the teachers, and the House of Assembly will have to, give us the necessary approval to get into the schools. But we'll be happy to do it. I'm telling you, we're going to do a whole national rollout in a short while, but we'll be happy to do it. And we really want to see the French Rebel group revived that deals with addiction and depressed youth. All right. So we want to offer those two things, the French Rebel program and
You guys,
also
what type of support do you think is needed for this to really be successful, especially in the Tobago context?
we would need an army of volunteers. We need about an army of about 25 volunteers. You understand? And they don't have to be just Seventh-day Adventists. Could be anybody. There are a lot of people in Trinidad and Tobago who are willing to be used, and they're not being used, enlisted. All right. So we have to have a. Now, I should tell you, one of the things I want to mention is fear. And Trevor Joseph told me that last night in the meeting in the town meeting in Felicity. Fear is crippling a lot of volunteers, but we have to encourage them. You see, if we have a group, people feel safer. They're not alone. Then they won't become a soft target. When you are part of a group and people are looking up each other, that's the beauty with the neighborhood watch group. It's not a solo affair. You're not in a silo, but you're part of a team. And it's harder to deal with a team and eliminate a team than this if you have to eliminate one person. All right. So that I want to emphasize that. And I think the fear is beginning to come into Tobago too, because with the with murders taking place, and then you realize it's homegrown boys, not just folks from Trinidad or outside of the Caribbean, but it's homegrown boys getting involved and being captivated by the possibility of getting rich overnight. And that's what the drug trade is all about. That's what gambling is all about. And you end up losing more than you had before. So that I want to say that once you want to get involved, call that number that was given to you just now, and we'd be happy to enlist you in the program.
Right, excellent. And before you go, before you wrap up this morning, is there any messages that you want to send to the people of Tobago and just a wider viewing audience?
Sure. What I want to say to you is this, all right? And I want, Benjamin Disraeli says you must nurture your mind with great thoughts because you never rise higher than the level of your thinking. Let me repeat that. Nurture your mind with great thoughts because you never rise higher than the level of your thinking. Parents, I want to caution you this morning. Don't give up on your child. All right, keep at him or her. If even you know they're involved in smoking or drinking or illicit underground activities, don't give up on your child. Monitor your child. Pay surprise visits in the school. Don't tell them when you're coming. Just announce. Don't announce it. Just turn up there. Keep in touch with the teachers. Keep in touch with the pastors. Keep in touch with the politicians. All right. Keep in touch with everybody. Build a network of proactive, positive people around your child.
Excellent. And thank you so much, Pastor
God
Dottin,
bless
for that.
you.
Thank you for
God
taking the
bless you, my
time out to join us here on Tobago Updates and sharing everything that you've been doing in the community in regards to trying to eradicate crime by targeting young persons, especially through education, mentorship, motivation. Guys, we're going to take a break and we'll be back right after this.
Let's go. It's a brand new morning, rise up to a brand new day.